All right, guys, moving on to Chapter 3, Lesson 3, Completing the Square. So these notes look a little large, but I did set them up to where you could have steps with your examples. So that's why the notes ended up being a little bigger. So let's start with example 1. We are solving quadratic equations using square roots. So we're going to do it using square roots. We're going to do it by completing the square. And we're going to apply the completing the square to write quadratic functions in vertex form. So those are multiple things we're going to do in this lesson. All right, so let's start with solving using square roots. So looking at this, we could factor, because what do you know about 64? You know two numbers that if you multiply them, you get 64, but you could add them and get negative 16. So what two numbers could you multiply to get 64, but when you add it, you get negative 16? So if you said negative 8 for both times, then yes. So we can actually rewrite this as x minus 8 squared equals 100. All right, so now we can undo the square by taking the square root of both sides. So we can take the square root of both sides. What happens is the square root and the square cancel out, leaves us with x minus 8. Now remember, over here we could have positive or negative. Square root of 100 is 10. So we're not done. We need to know what is the value of x. So in order to do that, we need to add 8 to both sides. And we get x equals 8 plus or minus 10. Don't leave it like this. All right? You need to work out each one of your solutions when you have it like this. So here are our solutions. We have x equals 8 plus 10, and we have x equals 8 minus 10. All right? All we're doing is separating this plus and minus. So 8 plus 10 gives us 18. 8 minus 10 gives us negative 2. So those are our two solutions. All right, let's look at another one. So we have x squared minus 22x plus 121 equals 81. So I just want to look first and make sure I have perfect squares. So if I look, I know 11 times 11 equals 121. 11 plus 11 is negative 22. So I know that I have a perfect square like I did up here. So I could rewrite it as x minus 11 squared equals 81. So all I did was factor this into a binomial. So now if I want to find out what 81 is, I need to take the square root of both sides. Remember, all the taking the square root of this side does is cancel out the square, because the inverse of a square is a square root. So we have x minus 11 equals plus or minus 9, because 9 squared is 81. Now, just like we did before, we're going to add 11 to both sides, and we get x equals 11 plus or minus 9. We need to work it out, though. Need to work out each one of your solutions. So we have x equals 11 plus 9 and x equals 11 minus 9. So 11 plus 9 gives us 20, and 11 minus 9 gives us 2. All right, so I want you guys to give this a try. If you didn't try B on your own, give these a try. So you're solving them using square roots. All right, please pause your video and give them a try. Hopefully you were able to get to this part. If not, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 plus 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 plus 3 is 6. Notice that our B term was positive here, so that's positive. Our B term was negative, so that's negative. We didn't have a positive one in the previous 2 examples. So please continue solving it from here. You need to take the square root of both sides. All right, so you should have gotten the solutions for the first one as 4 and negative 8. You should have gotten solutions for the second one as 4 and positive 2. So hopefully you did pretty well with these. So remember, we're looking at this number. If it's a perfect square, see if the square root of it, if you add that number together, you get this B value. All right, moving on. So let's solve quadratic equations by completing the square. So in example 1, the expression x squared minus 16x plus 64 is a perfect square trinomial. Because it can be written in the form of x minus 8 squared. In some situations, you will need to add a constant to an expression of the form x squared plus bx to make it a perfect square trinomial. This process is called completing the square. Now, you did learn this in Algebra 1, so this is kind of like a review. Now, below you have the information for completing the square and what it means. So like in a diagram, how we're going to do that, we're going to add it, and then algebraically. Because this can be a little confusing, if you notice in the notes, I kind of gave you the steps. So what is the value for b? Things like that. So we're going to answer those questions as we go along. All right, so we are looking at x squared plus 14x in this example. I'm just going to highlight it because I feel like it gets a little hidden there. So x squared plus 14x. All right, so what is our b value? So in this case, b is equal to 14, because remember, this is standard form. So ax squared plus bx plus c. There's no c value at this time. So now we need to find b divided by 2 and square it. So we're going to take 14, we're going to divide it by 2, and then we're going to square it. So what is 14 divided by 2? So we have 7 squared, which equals 49. So we're going to add this result to x squared plus bx. Okay, so we're going to go back to this part. We're going to say x squared plus 14x, but now we're going to add this part. So plus 49. All right, so we're adding it here. So what is our solution? Well, we could factor this now because this is a perfect square. So we now have a perfect square trinomial. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 plus 7 is 14. So we can now factor it to be x plus 7 squared. All right, so we're going to do the same thing here, but without the step-by-step instructions. So we need to know what is the value of b. In this case, it is -9. So we're going to say -9 divided by 2, and we're going to square it. In this case, -9 divided by 2 might not square so easily. I know some of y'all like decimals, but remember, when you square a fraction, you're just doing 9 times 9, 2 times 2. So it becomes 81 over 4. Okay? And then we're just going to add that to this. So now we have x squared minus 9x plus 81 over 4. And so our solution would be x minus 9/2, or x squared, my apologies, squared. Nope, what? Sorry, it wasn't my apologies. I was doing it right. I just second guessed myself. Sorry that I'm sure that happens to you too. So I'm just gonna, I feel like this kind of like gathered together. So I'm just gonna kind of, there we go, because I don't want that 2 to get confused with the 4. So we have x minus 9/2 and squared. Notice that this value is the same as this value. Like if we go back to this one, that value is the same as this one, not squared. Just something to keep in mind. All right, I think I have 2 for you to try. Hold on. I did. I have 2 for you to try. So if you will pause the video and give these 2 a try. Okay, so I hope that you have given this a try. Remember, you are taking your b value, dividing it by 2, and squaring it and adding it to both sides. And if you did that, you should have gotten these two. All right, if you have questions, please ask in class. I'm going to end this video here and start a new one with the next example.